What happens when a quiet order at a beach café turns into a health scare the CEO never saw coming? Shane, Veller hadn't set foot in one of his own restaurants in over a year. He'd inherited the beachside café chain from his father, 10 locations stretched up the coast. Each one a relaxed, sun-drenched spot offering fish tacos, smoothies, and beachfront views. After his dad passed, Shane kept the brand alive, expanding slowly, hiring a district manager and trusting each café's manager to run things by the book. But lately, something felt off. Customer reviews for the Marina Cafe had taken a nosedive. The food was cold. The service was bored or flat. One review said, "Manager sat on her phone while the food came out raw." Shane forwarded it to his district manager, who brushed it off. "It's a beach crowd," he'd said. "They're just picky." But Shane had a gut feeling something was slipping. He didn't want another email. He wanted to see for himself. He shaved his beard down to stubble, threw on a faded Padres cap, and wore a thrift store t-shirt with cargo shorts. Nobody had ever seen him in person outside of the main office, and even then, only a few. Most of the cafe workers were young and seasonal, and he'd never visited Marina Point since the expansion. He parked 2 blocks away, walked barefoot to blend in, and stepped onto the sand-dusted patio of the cafe just after 11 a.m. The lunch rush hadn't started yet, but the place still had a decent crowd. A hostess stood behind the "Order Here" sign, chewing gum, scrolling her phone. Her name tag read Brittany. He waited a few seconds. She didn't look up. "Hey," he said. She glanced up. "Yeah, I'd like to order." She tapped the screen lazily. "What do you want?" He scanned the chalkboard menu. "Fish tacos and a strawberry smoothie." "Name, Sean," he lied. She didn't write it down, just tapped a few things and said, "You can wait over there, it'll take a while." "We're short on staff," Shane asked, looking around. "Yeah, people keep quitting. Honestly, I might too," he blinked. "That bad?" She shrugged. "Whatever, I'm not paid to care." He stepped aside and sat on a bench near the pickup window. From there, he had a clear view of the open kitchen. That's when he saw it. The cook, tall guy, maybe mid-30s, shaved head, no gloves, dropped a raw fillet on the floor. It hit the tile with a wet slap. He looked around, picked it up, and slapped it back on the grill like nothing happened. Shane's stomach dropped. He stood quickly, pretending to stretch, and moved closer to the window. The cook, his name was Derek. According to the badge clipped to his apron, wasn't even trying to hide it. He wiped his hands on his pants, then grabbed a handful of shredded lettuce with those same hands. Shane's smoothie came up first, watery and half-melted. A server with tired eyes called out, "Sean." He took it and sat back down, watching. The tacos were next. Shane stared at the plate, trying to identify the fish. Was it the one Derek dropped? He couldn't eat it, not after what he saw. Instead, he stood and walked around the side of the building where the kitchen exit was. A young woman with a headset and a clipboard stood there, yelling into her phone. "I told you I can't cover both shifts. I'm not a magician." Shane waited until she hung up. "You the manager?" he asked. She exhaled. "Yeah, Haley, I'm guessing you're here to complain." "Not yet," Shane said. "Just had some questions." She looked him over. "You with corporate?" "No." "Health inspector?" "No." She looked relieved for a split second. "Then what? Just a customer?" "Well, like I said, we're short-staffed. Derek's our only cook today. If you had to wait, I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "How long's Derek been here?" 6 months. "Came from another cafe down south. Bit of a know-it-all, but he shows up on time. You ever watch him cook?" Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because he dropped raw fish on the floor, then served it." She blinked. "No, he didn't. I saw it." Haley looked away. "Are you sure it wasn't?" "I saw it." There was a long silence. She rubbed her temple. "Look, I'll talk to him, okay? We're drowning right now." "No dishwasher." 2 servers called out. "Brittany's already threatening to walk. I'm just trying to keep this place open." Shane nodded. "I get it." "But that's not just a bad day. That's dangerous." Haley folded her arms. "You think I want this? I've been begging for more help for weeks. District manager hasn't even stepped foot in here in months. I'm busting my ass." "Then why is Brittany up front on her phone?" Haley's jaw clenched. I'll handle it. Shane turned and walked away. He tossed the smoothie in the trash and left the tacos behind. He didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, he called his assistant. Set up a team meeting. I'm pulling the security tapes and I'm driving back down. You want to go in again? He paused. No, this time I'm going in as myself. But first, he needed to talk to Derek and Haley and Brittany, and he wasn't going to do it quietly. By 9 the next morning, Shane was back at Marina Point, this time in a crisp button-down and slacks. No hat, no pretense. He parked in the loading zone behind the café and entered through the rear alley door reserved for staff and deliveries. The kitchen was louder than it had been the day before, pans clattering, the dull whine of the industrial fridge opening and closing, someone cursing under their breath as a metal tray hit the ground. Haley stood stiffly near the prep counter, clipboard in hand, her eyes darting to the back entrance when she saw movement. You're the owner, she said, not asking. Shane nodded. Let's talk. She gestured toward the dry storage room. Only quiet place we've got. They stepped inside. The smell of cardboard and cumin clung to the air, and the hum of the walk-in cooler next door buzzed faintly through the wall. Shane leaned against the metal shelf. I've been watching service reports for this location for weeks. Yesterday confirmed what I was afraid of. Unsafe food handling. A disengaged front line. You said you're overloaded. I believe you, but I need to know exactly what's been happening here, all of it. Haley didn't fold under the pressure. We've had 3 line cooks quit in the last month. 2 of them walked out mid-shift. Dishwasher left after getting screamed at by Derek. No one did anything. I've asked for replacement hires. I've sent emails. Nothing. Why didn't you fire Derek when he started causing problems? She hesitated. Because I was told he came recommended. That he'd worked in our Orange Street cafe and just had a rough style. I figured I'd just have to manage him, but he's worse during lunch rush. Yells, ignores protocol, cuts corners to save time. I've written him up. Twice. You documented it, in the system. Shane nodded. And Brittany? Haley sighed. She wasn't like that when she started. Honestly, she was a solid seasonal hire last summer, but she came back with a chip on her shoulder. Doesn't listen, doesn't train new hosts, talks down to kitchen staff. I warned her last week after she told a tourist to Google it when they asked about gluten-free options. Shane pushed off the shelf. Get everyone in the back patio in 10 minutes. Cooks, servers, hosts. I'll handle it from there. By 10, the entire staff was gathered behind the cafe near the dumpsters and recycling bins, shielding their eyes from the morning sun. Shane stood facing them, arms crossed, watching their reactions as he spoke. My name is Shane Veller. I'm the owner of this cafe and the 9 others up the coast. Yesterday, I came here as a customer. What I experienced wasn't just disappointing. It was dangerous. Derek folded his arms. Brittany chewed gum, gaze fixed on the horizon. A younger server, maybe 19, looked nervous. Shane continued. Food hit the floor and was served anyway. Front staff ignored customers. Kitchen hygiene was ignored. This isn't a one-off bad day, it's systemic. No one spoke. He turned to Derek. You dropped raw fish on the floor and served it without hesitation. Did you think no one would notice? Derek scoffed. It's not like it was covered in dirt. It's a hot grill. It kills anything. Shane's jaw tightened. This isn't negotiable. That's a direct health code violation. You're done here. Pack your things. Derek opened his mouth to argue, but Shane raised a hand. This isn't up for debate. Haley will process your final check. You're leaving now. Derek muttered something under his breath and walked off through the back door, slamming it behind him. Shane turned to Brittany. Tell me why you're here, she blinked. What? Why are you working here? She shifted uncomfortably. I don't know, it's a job. Do you care about it? She shrugged. Not really. You were rude to customers. You ignored orders. You were on your phone while people waited in line. Is that how you think this place should run? It's not like anyone else is doing better. Shane nodded slowly. You're not being singled out, but your attitude affects everyone around you. You've been warned before. This is your final one. Starting today, you're on probation. Any more customer complaints and we're done. She looked like she wanted to argue, but something held her back. Shane looked to the rest of the group. This cafe used to have a strong reputation. People came here for the view, the food, the vibe, but right now, that's not what we're giving them. That's on me, I should have come sooner. But we're fixing it now. Starting today, we're bringing 2 support staff from the Newport location to help temporarily. I've also approved 3 new hires and interviews are scheduled for Monday. Until we're fully staffed, we're reducing the menu slightly to ease prep. Haley will walk you through what's changing. A server raised her hand. What about the dishwasher situation? We've contracted a temp until we fill the role permanently. They'll be here by noon. Haley stepped forward. We're also adjusting the opening checklist. No more skipping prep to save time. And if anyone sees unsafe behavior, report it immediately. I'll back you. Shane nodded. I'll be around for the next few days, watching service, talking to guests. Any questions? No one spoke. He dismissed them back to their stations, then followed Haley toward the kitchen to go over the adjusted menu. The moment they stepped inside, the younger server approached him. Her name tag read Lena. Can I talk to you for a sec? Of course. She lowered her voice. I just wanted to say thanks. I've only been here a few weeks, but I was starting to think this place didn't care at all. Shane tilted his head. Why'd you stay? She hesitated. I need the hours, and I like the regulars, but it's been rough. Derek used to yell at me when I asked questions. Told me to figure it out or go cry in the bathroom. Shane's expression hardened. You should have never had to deal with that. She gave a small nod and went back to setting up the drink station. Over the next hour, Shane watched the shift begin. With Derek gone, Haley stepped into the kitchen, helping prep the remaining proteins and organizing the line to keep things moving. Brittany, surprisingly, stayed quiet and focused on her tasks. She still moved slowly, but she wasn't on her phone. Just before the lunch wave, the temp dishwasher arrived, a wiry man in his 40s named Marco, who immediately got to work without complaint. The tension eased slightly. Shane posted up near the patio, watching interactions. Lena handled guests with patience, even when a table of tourists changed their order twice. One of the cooks, a quiet guy named Theo, moved with methodical precision, cleaning as he went, double-checking every plate. Haley came out wiping her hands on a towel. Feels different already. It should. Leadership sets the tone, Haley. You're trying, but you need support. That's my job. She nodded, looking past him toward the ocean. You think we can turn this around? We already started. By 2, the line had moved steadily without major delay. Customers complimented the food. Plates came out clean. Shane helped bus a few tables and introduced himself quietly to 2 couples who'd been regulars before the downward slide. They were surprised but supportive when they heard about the changes. The real test would be consistency, whether the new tone would stick once he left. But for now, the cafe was breathing again. The following morning, Shane arrived before sunrise. The cafe was still dark when he unlocked the front door. A dim gold hue stretched across the ocean, barely peeking over the horizon. Inside, the air was cool and quiet, broken only by the faint hum of refrigeration units in the kitchen. He didn't come to observe. He came to work. He slipped on an apron, tied it behind his back, and began pulling chairs down from tabletops. As he worked through the dining area, he heard the back door creak open. Footsteps shuffled across the tile. Hello, a voice called from the kitchen. It's just me, Shane replied. Go ahead and come in. Lena stepped into view, her hair tied up, sleeves rolled above her elbows. She stopped when she saw him in uniform. You're opening, thought I'd lend a hand. She didn't ask questions. Instead, she walked to the drink station and started prepping the iced coffee urns. They worked in silence for a few minutes, the rhythm of small tasks grounding the space. By 6:30, Haley arrived with a clipboard tucked under her arm and grocery bags in both hands. Her eyes took in the clean floor, the stacked cups, the already set patio. You didn't have to, I did, Shane said plainly. I wanted to see how things really start here. Haley nodded once and disappeared into the back cooler. By 7, Marco had returned for dish duty and Theo came in 10 minutes later. The new line cook, a transfer named Miles from the Newport location, showed up right on time. Miles was in his early 20s, wiry, focused, with a quiet confidence that made people step just a little faster near him. Shane introduced himself without fanfare, then watched as Miles slipped into position by the grill. The early rush started slowly, a few joggers and dog walkers stopping by for smoothies and breakfast wraps. Shane took orders at the register, making sure he kept pace with Lena, who handled the second terminal beside him. He let her lead the rhythm. She was calm and efficient, but not robotic. She smiled when appropriate, but didn't overdo it. She made eye contact. When someone asked for a vegan option, she didn't defer or freeze. She offered suggestions, clarified questions, and processed the order like she'd done it 100 times. Shane noticed something else too. She cleaned as she worked. Every few customers, she'd wipe down the counter or fix the signage near the register without being asked. He waited until a lull before speaking. "You're good at this." Lena looked up from the touchscreen. "Thanks. You ever think about moving into training?" Her fingers paused on the register. "Training who?" "New hires. You've got a way of staying steady without checking out. That's rare." She looked unsure. "I mean, I could try, but I've only been here a month." "Exactly. And you picked it up faster than most." She didn't reply, but her pace picked up slightly by mid-morning. The café was busy, not slammed but steady, with a line that never quite disappeared. Shane rotated out of the front and began bussing tables. He watched how guests responded. Most were upbeat, enjoying the view. A few commented on how much smoother things seemed compared to previous visits. Around 10, Shane noticed Brittany at the host stand. She was greeting a group of tourists, 2 parents, 3 kids, all in flip-flops and swim gear. Her tone was polite, but her posture was stiff. She led them to a table, handed off menus, and returned to her post without a word. Shane walked over. "How's it going?" Her eyes flicked to the side. "Fine. Anything you need?" She hesitated. "No, I'm good." He waited a beat. "You're showing up, that matters." She looked surprised. "I know yesterday wasn't easy," he continued. "But I meant what I said. You've got another shot. You use it right and we move forward." She nodded once, then turned away without replying. Shane didn't push further. Back in the kitchen, Miles had taken control of the line. His movements were clean, efficient. He communicated in short, clear phrases: "Need refire on the wrap," or "lettuce low, check bin." Theo responded well, working faster under direction. Haley stood near the back counter, organizing prep bins with gloves on, something Shane hadn't seen anyone do 2 days ago. He stepped beside her. "Miles seems to be fitting in." "He knows what he's doing," Haley said. "Doesn't bark orders, just keeps pace. Think he can hold the line during lunch with Theo?" "Yeah, but it'll still stretch us." "I've got someone from the Solana location coming in tomorrow, part-time but solid." Haley exhaled. "Good." Just before 11, a man in khakis and a pale blue polo walked through the front doors. He wasn't a customer. He looked around with quick, surveying eyes. Shane recognized him immediately. Danny, the district manager. He hadn't given a heads up. Shane stepped out from behind the counter and approached him. "Didn't expect to see you here." Danny offered a tight laugh. "Heard you were in town, thought I'd pop by." Shane didn't smile. "Walk with me." They headed through the side patio to a quiet corner near the storage shed. Shane didn't waste time. "This place has been sliding for a while. I'm just now seeing how deep it went." Danny shrugged. "It's been a rough quarter across the board, Shane. High turnover, low labor pool. I'm not talking about trends. I'm talking about this location." "You didn't respond to Haley's hiring requests. You ignored flagged service reports. You gave Derek a positive reference even though he was run off from Orange Street for the same behavior." Danny's jaw tightened. "I didn't ignore anything. I prioritized. We've got 10 locations. I can't hold every manager's hand." She didn't need hand-holding. She needed staff and oversight. You didn't give her either. Danny looked away. "You're blaming me for one bad cook. I'm holding you accountable for neglect. You're supposed to be the bridge between these cafes and the leadership team. Instead, you passed along problems and hoped they'd fix themselves. Danny crossed his arms. So what now? You want me to apologize to every line cook who's ever had a bad shift. I want you to step down. Danny blinked. You're serious. You've had multiple chances to raise red flags. You didn't. This isn't a one-time slip, it's a pattern. I need someone in that role who's going to show up literally and figuratively. Danny didn't argue. He just stood there, stunned. Shane didn't wait for a response. He turned and walked back inside. Haley was at the sink when he returned. Danny's leaving the company, Shane said. She froze for a moment. You fired him? I made a decision, one that should have been made months ago. She nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. The lunch rush hit harder than the day before. Orders stacked quickly, but the team held together. Shane jumped behind the counter to run food when needed. Lena adjusted the flow at the register to keep the line moving. Miles didn't speak much, but he plated with speed and accuracy. Even Brittany moved with more intention. By 2:30, the café had quieted. Shane wiped his hands and leaned against the edge of the prep counter. You all held it together today, he said to no one in particular. Theo nodded, sweat beading at his temple. It felt smoother. It was, Haley said, still short but manageable. Shane looked around the kitchen. Tomorrow we start training 2 new hires, one for the kitchen, one for front of house. I'll be here to help onboard. Haley raised an eyebrow. You're staying for a few more days. I want to make sure we don't just fix the symptoms. She nodded once, the sharp tension in her shoulders finally easing, if only slightly. As the crew cleaned down the line, Shane stepped outside to the patio. The ocean stretched out ahead, breeze tugging at the umbrellas. Customers lingered at tables, sipping the last of their drinks. The place felt alive again, not perfect, not easy, but breathing, rebuilding. He wasn't done yet. But the worst of the rot had been cut away, and now something better had room to grow. By the end of the week, Shane had logged more hours at Marina Point than he had in the past 6 months across all locations combined. He wasn't there to play hero. He knew better than to think 1 week of hands-on effort could undo months of mismanagement, but the cracks were no longer being ignored. They were being filled. The new hires had started 2 days earlier. Haley handled the onboarding, pairing the new front-of-house team member, a college student named Jaya, with Lena for shadowing. Jaya was quiet but attentive, and Lena took to the informal mentorship role without being asked. In the kitchen, the second hire, a lean, sharp-eyed prep cook named Raoul, worked under Miles's supervision. Raoul had experience, but he didn't overstate it. He asked questions, adjusted when corrected, and cleaned his station without prompting. Shane spent his mornings helping open and his afternoons on the floor, observing the rhythm of the café like a mechanic listening to an engine. When Haley needed to step out for a meeting with payroll, he handled the register. When the drink station backed up, he poured smoothies. He didn't announce himself as the owner to guests anymore. He didn't need to. He was just another pair of hands trying to keep things moving, but Friday brought a different kind of test. Around 1 in the afternoon, a group of high school students came in, 7 of them, laughing loudly, barefoot, and still damp from the ocean. They pushed 2 tables together on the patio without asking and began flipping through menus. Lena approached them with practiced calm, offering water and taking their orders with patience. They were indecisive and loud, but not disrespectful. Still, Shane noticed Brittany watching them from the host stand, her expression unreadable. He made his way behind the counter to check on the incoming orders. As he scanned the queue, he caught something out of the corner of his eye. Brittany had approached the teenagers' table and was speaking to them, except her tone was different than usual. Flat, dismissive. Shane stepped closer to the open window between the kitchen and patio. He couldn't hear every word, but what he did hear made his shoulders tense. You guys need to keep it down. You're not the only ones here. One of the teens, a girl with braids and a sunburned nose, said something back. He couldn't make it out, but Brittany responded instantly. Maybe if you didn't take up half the patio, people wouldn't be staring. Another teen stood up, his voice louder now, clearly trying to defend his group. Brittany didn't back off. I've seen people like you come in here and make everything harder. If you can't behave, you can eat somewhere else. Shane was already walking. By the time he reached the patio, Lena was standing between Brittany and the table, her voice low, trying to de-escalate. The teens looked stunned, some embarrassed, others visibly angry. Shane stepped in. Brittany. Inside, now. She stared at him for a beat, then turned and walked stiffly back toward the café. He turned to the group. I'm sorry for what just happened. You didn't deserve that, and it's being dealt with immediately. Your food's on the way. Drinks are on us. The girl with the braids nodded slowly, but her expression stayed guarded. Lena looked over. I'm really sorry, they didn't do anything wrong. Shane gave her a quiet nod. I know. Inside, Brittany stood near the coffee station, arms crossed. She didn't look up when he approached. Come with me. They stepped into the storage room in the back, the same one where he'd confronted Haley on his first return. He shut the door behind them. What was that? Her jaw tensed. They were out of control. No, they weren't. They were loud. That's not a crime. They were acting like they owned the place. You snapped at a group of paying customers for talking and sitting together. You singled them out, then made a comment that crossed a line. She didn't respond. Have you done that before? Still nothing. You made a blanket judgment based on how they looked and acted. I don't care what your intention was, that's not something we tolerate. Not once, not ever. Her expression hardened. So I'm fired. Yes. She didn't protest. She just walked out, grabbed her things from below the host stand, and left without saying another word. Shane returned to the floor. Lena was still managing the patio, bringing out plates and checking on the teens, who had settled into a quieter tone. The food was served quickly, and when one of the boys spilled a soda, Raoul came out with a towel and helped clean it up without being asked. After the group left, Lena returned to the counter and set down her tray. She's gone, Shane nodded. Lena exhaled. Good. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but you shouldn't have had to. Haley returned from her payroll meeting just after the rush died down. Shane pulled her aside and filled her in. She didn't ask for details. You did the right thing. They stood near the dish station, the clatter of plates soft in the background. I've seen cafes fall apart over one person poisoning the atmosphere, Shane said. Sometimes it's not even what people do, it's what they let slide. And I let this place slide for too long. Haley nodded slowly. It's not perfect, but it doesn't feel like we're drowning anymore. You've got a team now that wants to be here. That's the difference. Late in the afternoon, Shane gathered the staff on the patio. The sun was starting to dip, casting a warm gold across the tables. You've all seen a lot of changes this week, he began. Some of them were overdue, some of them were hard, but every one of you played a part in turning this place around. Raoul leaned against the wall, arms folded. Miles stood beside him, silent but engaged. Lena perched on a stool, still in uniform, sipping water. Jaya hovered near the host stand, hands clasped nervously. You've shown patience, effort, and accountability. That's not just rare in this industry, it's valuable. So if you're still here after everything that's happened, I want you to know, you're not just a name on a schedule, you're part of what's next. He turned to Haley. She'll be leading this location with my full backing. Any concerns, you go to her. She's earned your trust and mine. Haley nodded once, her expression steady. I'll still be checking in regularly, Shane added. Not with memos, in person. I've learned something important over the last few days. You can't lead from a spreadsheet. You lead by showing up. Theo raised his hand, hesitant. What happens with the district manager role? Shane looked at him. I'm filling it, but carefully. Someone who understands what the job actually means. Until then, I'll be covering that territory myself. The group slowly broke into smaller clusters. Conversations resumed, quieter, lighter. Shane stayed back, watching the way they moved, now less tense, more sure of their steps. Later that evening, after the last table was cleared and the kitchen wiped down, Shane stepped outside alone. The sky had turned deep purple, the last light disappearing behind the horizon. The sound of waves rolled in and out like breath. He didn't feel victorious. He felt grounded. This wasn't about saving a business. It was about showing up when it counted, listening when it was uncomfortable, and choosing people over convenience. He locked up the café and walked back to his car, shoes in hand, sand between his toes. Tomorrow, he'd be back at headquarters. But he wouldn't forget how it felt to scrub the floor at sunrise, to pour drinks for regulars, to fire someone who couldn't see the dignity in others. He built this company with his father's values in mind. Somewhere along the way, he'd drifted. He wouldn't drift again.